Hand up. Anyone on Zoom who would like to introduce themselves? Robin Hubbard over here is keeping track of all that. Yes, we're okay? After this, at the end of the service, Jaden up here, who is our tech expert, will be dividing the people on Zoom into small discussion groups. And for you, any of you who would like to just meander out to the porch and talk to each other and spend a little time talking about our topic or any other thing, you're welcome to do that. I want to especially thank Nancy Chase, who provided these beautiful flowers today for us, and Priscilla Smith, right there, who is sharing her music with us this morning. Are there any announcements today? I have a couple. The first announcement is one that I forgot to give last week, but I want to give it anyway because it's a yay, it's a hip hip hooray for Dana McCoy. A bunch of us went to see her play in Katuitt at the Outside Theater a week ago Tuesday. It's called Tiger Lily. It was one of those times you get to see it when it's sort of on a trial run, you know, how you do when you're writing a play. This is her play, and it is a story of her life during the time that in a year or two when she was suffering from a problem with a brain tumor, and which really, be relieved, it all got resolved, but it was a very difficult period of time. And if you go from the Unitarian Universalist Meeting House of Chatham, you'll see us, you'll recognize things that happened here and things that people did here. So it was great fun. And it's called Tiger Lily. So if it comes back and is around, be sure you go see it. It's terrific. I also want to announce that our community outreach for last month was Grandmothers Against Gun Violence, sitting right here to my right and down here. And this month, we are collecting money for the Chatham Children's Fund. It's one of the places that gives food in the summer to school children who are depending on their school lunches during the winter. And if the school lunches disappear, some of them have no lunches. And so this Chatham Children's Fund, as well as a couple of other funds nearby, all make lunches and bring them to places where you find children playing, which is a lovely thing to do, I think. Anyway, if you want to give to our outreach collection from Social Justice, there's a basket at the back of the church for that, or you can use any of our ordinary ways of making contributions, like our website has a red dot, or you can send a check and just note in the memo line that it is for the Chatham Children's Fund. Any other announcements? No. Okay. These are our opening words today. It is by Kashab Chandra Sen, arranged by John Haynes Holmes, and it's called Unto the Church Universal. Unto the Church Universal, which is the depository of all ancient wisdom and the school of all modern thought, which recognizes in all prophets a harmony, in all scriptures a unity, and through all dispensations a continuity, which abhors all that separates and divides, and always magnifies all that unifies and brings peace, which seeks truth and freedom, justice in love, and individual discipline in social duty, and which shall make of all sects, classes, nations, and races one global community. Unto this church and unto all its members, known and unknown throughout the world, we pledge the allegiance of our hearts, hands, and hearts. The chalice lighting. The opening hymn today is number 168 in the gray hymnal, One More Step. Please rise as you are able. Remain standing for our affirmation, which will be on the slide. I can't see the slide, so if it's not, let me know. Love is the spirit of this meeting house, and service is its foundation. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. Margaret, would you like to introduce Donna?
Oh, I was going to introduce
Why
you
not?
to her now? Okay. Donna Wald earned her BA in Sociology and Social Welfare from Northeastern University in 1972. A career in finance and advertising agencies led her to a 25-year career in the field of direct, client-driven marketing for nonprofits, retail, and business-to-business clients. She also served in leadership roles in the Midwest Direct Marketing Association, as well as being its president. After moving to the Cape in 2005, Donna became the vice president of Grandmothers Against Gun Violence in the summer of 2018 and the president in early 2019. She enjoys her role in Grandmothers and working with the exceptionally committed people she has met along the way. Her passion for gun violence prevention derives from the souls lost to gun violence and the future well-being of her children and grandchildren. Welcome, Donna.
Welcome, Donna.
You've been doing great work going around all the police stations, talking to the police about it, and distributing pamphlets which they created about gun violence and making guns safer. So she'll tell you about it later.
Now is a time in the service for joys and concerns. At this time, we like to share things that have happened to us during this week that are especially joyful, or which we would like to share with the congregation because we maybe need a little support or help because they are upsetting or sad. Dolly.
I have a tremendous joy, and the family is here. One of my great nieces was proposed to yesterday on Simpson Island, and she accepted, and her parents are here, and she and her future fiancé are here, and we are totally delighted.
Any others? And he's on Zoom. No, okay. Now, we will take a few minutes for meditation or prayer. About 3. Just moments of silence to think about. There is so much going on in the world that my head feels like it's exploding sometimes. So take a few minutes to just try to be calm and think of peaceful, plain, and beautiful things. Amen. This is a poem by Langston Hughes. Hold fast to dreams. For if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field, frozen with snow. Priscilla. Now, if you'd like to sing along, it's number 123. You may remain seated. Giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. And now a reading.
Commitment by Dorothy Day. People say, what is the sense of our small effort? They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has a right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do. And then the words of Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. I think those are worth repeating. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So we should start with hope and listen to the words of Donna Wald.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for coming. Some of you are probably on vacation, so it's incredibly special that you came. So I'd like to thank you for having us all today. In times like these, it's a comfort and inspiration to us that we are asked to participate in your service. For those of you who don't know us, we are Grandmothers Against Gun Violence. We were founded immediately after the Sandy Hook tragedy, and we've been advocating for gun safety and common sense gun legislation on the Cape and beyond since 2013. The recent shootings are horrific, heartbreaking, and point to an escalating trend in gun violence. Our hearts go out to the families of the victims and all those who are impacted by these tragedies. You might ask, what is our mission going forward? I will simply say, we carry the losses and souls from all the gun violence we have seen with us, and we continue to work, as we always have, to do the hard work to end gun violence. Mainly, I'd like to talk today about how we change the narrative on gun violence, because the national messaging of all the gun violence prevention groups have changed, and I would like to convey it to you because it's a much easier way to talk about gun violence, and it's a much more effective way to get the change that we want. For all of us who have worked on the national legislation, it's become obvious to us that the American people are the only way we are going to change this, and we feel encouraged that there is now a climate for change. For years, the narrative on guns has been driven by the NRA and gun manufacturers who simply capitalized on many factors to sell more guns in a challenging market situation for them. In the late 1970s, the NRA made a radical shift from a hunting, fishing, and educational group to an organization that leveraged fear, patriotism, masculinity themes, distrust of government, and political affiliations to sell their varying product lines. So you can imagine, undoing the years of this narrative has been very difficult, and this narrative is what we are up against every single day. We work with local and national groups, and the new narrative that is emerging to combat the NRA and gun lobby narrative is promising, and you can use this narrative when you speak about gun violence. The really bright spot is that gun owners themselves are becoming actively involved in common sense gun legislation because they fear the current behavior we see will ruin their sport. Many ex-gun industry folks, veterans, and active competitive gun enthusiasts are leading this narrative. And we've realized we need to meet them in the middle to get their voice to our reforms. And I believe that we can. I strongly believe from what I've seen that we can. Secondly, gun violence is finally being seen as the public health epidemic it is, rather than a political issue. And in public health research, you look for research-based solutions being the answers to the issues, as we did with cars, as we did with smoking, as we did with everything. We look for research that tells us who is most at risk, what circumstances put them there, and how to eliminate those outcomes. And you're beginning to see that in community improvement programs, violence intervention programs in hospitals and on the street, and mental health professionals in police departments, et cetera. My third point, the Second Amendment is here to stay, and respecting the amendment is crucial to having the conversation. Regardless of how you feel about the expansion of the Second Amendment, whatever, it is here, and in order to get more voices, we need to realize that and respect that for now. You can still have the conversation about social responsibility in this framework, because although you clearly have a right to have a gun, you also have a social responsibility to the communities you live in to help address the issue of gun violence and use your firearm properly. And this is my pet peeve. All types of shooting are not the same and are not mental health issues. The mental health narrative is the favorite of people who want nothing done about gun violence. If we cured all the mental health issues we have, research indicates it would only make a 4% difference in the deaths by gun violence. Different solutions need to be reached for different types of gun violence. School shootings tend to be long-seated grievance issues. Urban shootings result from the economic and social inequities we find in those areas. Domestic abuse shootings result from control and manipulation issues. Suicides result often from impulsive urges with a weapon nearby. All require different solutions. We ask that all people get involved in their own families and neighborhoods to leverage the laws we do have to manage situations which result in these shootings. We have extreme risk protection orders to remove firearms from those who exhibit a tendency to do harm to themselves or others. And this also applies to school personnel and law enforcement as well. Use the laws that we have. Be aware. In at least the Oxford shooting and the one we just saw in Highland Hills, there were so many signs, and yet there were not charges filed, there were not orders recorded of visits to the home of the shooter, so there are things people can do. And lastly, gun violence is not the natural outcome of legal gun ownership, and we will not accept that it is. Now, as you all know, we've had recent legislative developments on the heels of Uvalde and the Buffalo shooting. We managed to pass the bipartisan safety bill. Our opinion, and most of the gun violence prevention group's opinion, is it was a good first step because it showed we can have a conversation. It fell far short of what we need to get done. There were major bills left behind, both in the House, which we worked on really hard, which was really disappointing. And they are bills such as universal background checks, enhanced background checks omnibus bill, Protecting Our Kids Act, which we worked on really hard. It was simply about safe storage in the home. And that was voted out of the House and basically never went anywhere. Assault weapons, limited to age 21. The limitation of high-capacity magazines, ban on ghost guns, assault weapons ban, and removing the gun industry legal shield and the Federal Firearm Licensing Act. So you can see what got left behind in order to make a compromise. And sometimes that's how it happens. The good news is those bills are all written. Some have passed the House, so they're still there and they're ready to go on some level when the climate is right. So now, what can you do? Because that is the whole point. We wait around for a watershed moment. Well, Sandy Hook wasn't the watershed moment. Even Uvalde was a watershed moment in its own right, and I think we owe the passage of that bill as it stood to Uvalde and Buffalo. But what I've realized is that we are the watershed moment. The people that vote in this country, the people that speak out in this country, we are the watershed moment. And we know that we have many people with us who will not speak up. Although, when you look at Uvalde and Buffalo, it's our typical reaction of, oh my God, now we have to do something. So for that, we are grateful and we hold them in our memory that something was accomplished, but this is only the beginning of where we need to be. Another way to speak out, and we're going to see some art later, is through art. One of our members, Jane Lincoln, has had exhibits on the Cape of art exhibits of shootings. She's documented every single shooting on a black piece of paper with bullet holes, which is what it is, and the people that died there. So speaking out has many forms. Different people see things different ways. We also were involved with the Soul Box project, and Linda Loring is here. I just saw her come, and she was involved in it in Washington, where we made soul boxes, little boxes, for souls that have died from gun violence. That exhibit went to the National Mall on DC last October. It was called This Loss We Carry. It was a national thing from the Soul Box Project. There were 200,000 boxes that were carried around and staged on the National Mall to represent 3 years of loss and injuries due to gun violence. There's another example of how when all your senses get involved, it means more than when someone is just talking to you. Another thing you can do is you can write letters to representatives and newspapers. Those are more powerful than you know, especially if you have a particular experience to relate to your senator, your representative. It's amazing what people can do. We just worked with a survivor who lost her son to gun violence, and she went on the Hill and she spoke with every senator in the US Congress and every House representative, relating that story of her son's death, which was a whole lot to do with how this bipartisan bill got passed. You can also write action postcards to your representatives, which we do, and you can write postcards before elections. There are plenty of groups in the United States that have that available. They're very well targeted, and they increase voting rates 1% to 2%. And you can join a gun violence prevention organization. There are many in the United States, and I'm just going to talk about ours because I know what we do. We have monthly educational meetings where you can learn about gun violence, legislation, whatever. We have rallies. We have been rallying at the Hyannis Rotary since we were founded, 14th of every month, excluding January, February, and March. We are always out there so people can see us. We have a newsletter that lets you know about state bills and what's happening, as well as stuff you can do. I have a sign-up sheet in the back if anybody wants to do it. You can also donate. You can volunteer. Our whole organization is volunteer, and we work really hard, and we have plenty of work if anyone would like to become involved. And if you belong to any groups that might like to hear us speak, it's really important to get the word out. That's how we get a lot of our members. And last but not least, we've got voting. It's fairly obvious we are not going to get anywhere without clear majorities in the Congress to drive the gun violence prevention agenda. That's just the reality of the way it is. That's how it's going to happen. I have members who have been calling senators every day since last January, myself included. So there's a lot to do here. And with voting, do everything you can to help others vote, drive people to vote, encourage people to register. And remember, it's local, state, and federal. Even on the local level, there are things happening that you probably really don't want to see happen. So you've got to get in there on all the levels and vote. And I can tell you, you're going to feel better if you do something. I have had a ton of members say to me, I feel so helpless sitting around. And then when they're members, they say, well, we did that thing with the postcards. We're talking about ghost gun banning. So I think you're going to feel better if you do something. And I want you to rest assured that thousands of very talented people in every generation are working every day at state, local, and national levels to put an end to gun violence. And we truly feel that if we can all amplify the conversation to more people who will work with us, that we can get this done. This is so funny because I have the same closing quote that Margaret had. But this is, I'm going to read it again because I firmly believe this. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And I thank you so much for your donation and for your attention, and let's do this.
Yes, let's do it.
As I hope you've seen during the service, Priscilla Smith has done some textile art, which we have displayed here when we were displaying things downstairs. And we're going to show it all again. Not only that, she's going to explain it.
Okay, yes, carry on. Yes, just fine.
Just turn it this way? Okay, okay. And Good morning. Is this okay? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Priscilla Smith. I am a textile artist and a printmaker, and I guess I'm a musician too. Much of my art over my working art career has been about social justice issues, and I have made a lot of pieces about the gun issue. I've chosen 3 to talk about this morning, and I'm just basically going to read a shortened version of the artist's statement that goes with each one of them.
Robin, come up.
Oh. I think it's the other side, too.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
This first piece is called 90 a Day. It was made in 2017. In the year 2017, when I made this piece, 90 people living in the United States were killed every single day by bullets from guns. Today, 5 years later, the number is 110 people a day. 90% of Americans favor legislation designed to reduce the number of deaths, and yet Congress refuses to act, too cowed by the National Rifle Association and its supporters and other groups. For those of you who can't see it closely, I have hand-stitched dead bodies lying on top of each other in each of the panels. In making a lot of my art, what I try to do is make a piece which juxtaposes beauty against the horrific issues I'm working with. And I have a reason for doing that. My work does show all over the country. I'm in a group that shows all over the country. And so when it's in an exhibition, there's a lot of competition. You know, people walk into the exhibition, you want them to go look at your piece. So I will often try to make it have maybe beautiful colors, beautiful stitching, whatever, so that I'll draw them in, and then they'll start to look, and then they'll see, oh my God, look what she's done. And then they'll read the artist's statement. And my hope is just that if I've reached one person that day, I'm happy. So that's 90 a day. This next piece is called A Gun in Every Classroom? No way. I, as many, have watched in horror as guns have proliferated in the United States and are used by people to kill children and teachers in schools. I am further horrified at the solution proposed by the NRA. The proposal is to provide every teacher in every classroom in this country with a gun and to train those teachers how to use those guns. This solution will not protect our school children from gun violence. It will only result in more profits for gun manufacturers and more dead children and teachers. This piece was made by cutting out 288 guns out of fabric, sewing them together, and then painting the school with a big cross across it. That's number 2. This third piece is one of my favorites. It was made about 10 years ago, shortly after Trayvon Martin's death. It has been shown in many, many exhibitions across the country. It is titled, I Could Have Been Your Son, My View of Posthumous Words from Trayvon Martin. I could have been many things: a loving husband, a caring father, a courageous judge, a giving teacher. We'll never know. I now grieve for all of us who have lost and will lose our young lives as a result of injustice. where reasonable doubt doesn't mean much, and where truth is concealed by fear of looking deep within ourselves, and where justice is corrupted by the few. Without an honest jurisprudence system that is bold enough to address the way racial discrimination pervades our criminal law, my voice and millions of others will be meaningless and forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. I was so happy to find that Priscilla's work and our service today meshed perfectly. Although it's very sad to think back only a few weeks to how many gun incidents we've all been coping with. I mean, it's hard to believe, especially when you hear about yesterday, day before, when Japan had 1 death. The whole year before, with half our population, it had 10 shootings and 1 death. It is mind-boggling, I think, to contemplate that situation and then think about us and our 145,000 gun deaths. In any case, let's take a minute just to think about that situation. We can do something about it. I firmly believe that, along with Donna and Margaret and Priscilla, that even though we're just a small congregation here in Chatham, that we can do something about it. So all of us, I hope, leave today with the feeling that I'm going to do whatever small thing I can do to do something about this atrocious situation. Now is the time, you'll all remember, when we talk about offerings. The contributions to this congregation are helping us do all the things we do. Our building, our Zooming, our meetings, and they're getting to be maybe less masked. And I hope that you will realize how much we appreciate the support of all of you. If you're in the sanctuary, the ushers will pass the collection baskets. There's another basket at the back, which I mentioned earlier, where you can leave an offering for the Chatham Children's Fund, and or you can mail your. I'm embarrassed to say I still mail my stuff to the church, and the address will be on the screen. Always know that we are very grateful for your generosity of whatever amount, because that's how foot by foot by foot by foot, one step at a time, we keep on going. Now, let there be an offering to sustain this space, this community of history and memory and hope, for we are the keepers of the dream. Let's now join together in the closing hymn, which is number 358, Rank by Rank. Please rise as you are able. Please be seated. Before we extinguish our chalice, I especially want to thank Donna for coming. We appreciate it, and we hope that we get some inspiration for action from your talk.
We will.
Yes, that's what we're looking for. And now we'll extinguish our flame. Together, we extinguish this flame. Not the light of truth, or warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And the closing words. are by Dag Hammarskjöld. Remember him? I am being driven forward into an unknown land. The pass grows steeper, the air colder and sharper. A wind from my unknown goal stirs the strings of expectation. Still the question, shall I ever get there? There, where life resounds, a clear, pure note in the silence. And we'll stay seated for the postlude, and then everyone can leave. Thank you.
I just want to say I chose this piece called Joyful Overture because I want to send as much energy into everyone to go out and do something.